Afternoon, guys. Thank you all for joining us on this webinar, Sprinting Through the Legal Process. Delighted to be joined by one of our partners, Matt at Seddons. Thank you so much, mate, and welcome to the Bluecroft webinar.
Thank you for having me.
Just a few absolute basics for to start with. So we've got 30 minutes to this webinar. If it overruns, apologies, but this is on demand, so you can get this at any time, guys. And our marketing will absolutely be flogging this for the next 2 months. So yeah, you'll see it everywhere. We've got a Q&A at the bottom there, guys. So at any point, just start adding questions. We've kind of given me about 10 minutes at the end for questions. Anything we can't get to, we'll obviously come back to. And we've got a poll that we're going to run live in a minute. So you'll all see that at the bottom of the screen, but I'll go through that in a minute. So a few introductions. So I'm James. I'm one of the senior BDMs here at Bluecroft. Bit about Bluecroft. So we've been going now for around 3 years. We do bridging finance, really simple and straightforward how it should be done. We like to think we do the little things that other lenders can't. We've got a really, really small, close team that allows us to listen, understand, and actually just do a few quirky things and look at a few different things that other lenders can't. Myself, I've been in the industry now 15 years, started in the banking world. Then I had 7 years as a broker. And I always mention that because I think it's really important. I know exactly how you guys are feeling, whether that's about communication, whether it's even just getting a quick no. We've really liked it. We've built our processes and our team understanding that kind of broker world really, really well. And I'll hand over to Matt to tell a little bit about himself and Seddons.
Thanks, James. Yeah, so Seddons GSC, I have to get used to saying that. We merged in April this year with GSC Solicitors, who were a boutique property firm that also had specialisms in immigration, IP, corporate law, and bolstered our support that we can provide our clients as a full service firm at Seddons. I'm a partner in the real estate finance team. We are a team of about 17, 18 people, act for around 30 to 35 different bridging, development finance, structured finance providers. My team specifically only act for lenders. So all we do is sort of lender focused work, advising lender clients, see the weird and wonderful on a daily basis.
Usually from me.
I've worked with Bluecroft for it's about 9 months now.
Yeah.
And have helped them supported them, in their growth, helping them through implementing title insurance, for example, trying to make deals a bit smoother. We all, we all see hurdles from time to time. So it's just trying to making those hurdles as smooth as they possibly can be. But yeah, I think that's enough from me now.
Well, we thought we'd start actually asking you guys what kind of things you saw. So me and Matt, we put our heads together with what we thought the challenges were in the industry. But I thought it'd be great to actually get your views, guys. And me and Matt will go through it. So yeah, you can see the poll tab in the middle of your screen on the bottom layer. So just click on that. Just give you a couple of minutes to vote through it, and me and Matt will kind of go through them challenges and just discuss them. So yeah, if you can start voting, guys, that'd be great. And what we'll do, Matt, I'll just chat through some as we're going, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We can see a clear winner already, I reckon, which we all probably thought. The communications piece. I think we've all been. Well, we've had a deal at the minute ourselves, Matt, where communication has been interesting. Not from you at all, Matt, but yeah. What's your views? Is it what would you say is the key in communicating better amongst ourselves?
One of the things that I find, and I fall foul of it for myself sometimes, it's very easy to get into a bit of an argument with your fellow sort of co-counsel or solicitor on the other side. And then it becomes sort of a bit of a boxing match between who can say who's holding up the transaction. And more often than not, I find that it's actually just easier to pick up the phone. I had a deal the other day where, hold my hands up, we'd got into a bit of a slogging match and picked up the phone to the solicitor. We were both obviously having a bit of a keyboard warrior moment. And we picked up the phone, got on really, really well. dealt with the inquiries, and hopefully we're looking to complete in the next couple of days. But it was one of those things where it was very easy to see an email come in, just fly through it and say to follow or waited, that kind of thing. Whereas actually, deals are done by speaking to people. And I think, you've also got the other option of having conference calls or parties calls on, I guess, perhaps more complicated transactions. Sometimes that's more useful, maybe deals that, clearly are going to take a couple of weeks because, you've got portfolio and various other bits and pieces, and having weekly catch-up calls on those kind of transactions, keep the borrower involved as well, focus the borrower's minds. Communication is key. You want a legal partner on your side, both lender and borrower side, who understands the need for communication, even if it's just saying, thanks, got your email, I'll deal with that tomorrow, or I'll deal with it tonight, just in the middle of something at the moment. That's something that I've always found quite useful, just for keeping everyone in the loop, because once an email goes across, either on your side or the other side comes across to you, that the focus is back on you. So if you're then managing expectations by saying, I'll deal with this later, or saying, I've got lots of calls this afternoon, but I'll allocate some time to this tonight, then at least everyone knows where you are. I also find, from my perspective, that I overmanage overmanage their expectations by telling them that I've got to deliver something by tomorrow, and actually just do it tonight, for example.
Yeah. You see that a lot. I think it's something I've learned in my time as well. With, on the other side, it's pointless as promising a 7-day completion on a receivership case when there's 3 red book vowels trying to come in, and it's not dissimilar. It's pointless. No one wins in them scenarios. So I think I think the other thing from my side is, unfortunately for you, I WhatsApp you a bit. There's no need, I think, in this day and age, for us not to be in constant communication, whether it's with the broker, whether it's with the client. And it is just them little messages at times, I think, really help. But I think phone calls, we had it on the other day with a case with some receivers, didn't we, Matt? We just jumped on a Teams, all of us. I think that saved about 3 weeks worth of emails back and forth, because we really got to the crux of the problem. And I think it worked really, really well. But it's not a surprise that was the biggest in the votes. The other one, Matt, was delays in legal searches. Do you see that much? Or, I know we do a lot of search indemnity ourselves.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a lot of bridging lenders use title insurance or no search indemnity insurance. But I was talking to a client about it this morning, actually. If the client is if the borrower, as in the lender's client, is purchasing the property, they may want to do their own searches, irrespective of whether or not the lender needs to look at those. They may still want to do their own searches. So you've got that you need to bear in, to take into consideration. But unfortunately, searches are a real point of contention for general conveyancing as well, because you look at some local authorities will turn a search round in 5 days, some will turn them in 30 days. Some places like Hackney, you can't even get a local search because they were cyber hacked, and they unfortunately have fallen foul of that. So I think generally searches are going to add some layer of complexity to a transaction, because they might reveal things that then you then have to deal with. Whereas the beauty of no search indemnity insurances or title insurances, you don't need to do those searches, and the lender is covered in the event that there is I guess what they just, depending on the terms of the insurance, is defined as an adverse entry that would be revealed if it ever came to be found out.
Well, I think title insurance, and here's my sales pitch, of course, I think that makes a real difference. Obviously, we've just doubled ours, haven't we, Matt? So we're looking to do anything up to £1 million on title insurance. And the difference that can make, and I know it's slightly different, it is absolutely huge. So, I completely get that. What else we got there, guys? The title issues thing. You're just always going to get that in bridging, aren't you, Matt? I think that's probably what you see is them type of deals just crop up every now and again, and you've just got to, again, communicate and try and find the best ways around it, even when the land registry take 3 months to actually do anything.
I think with bridging, it's all about finding solutions. And some title issues, you can find a solution, i.e. you could find a comfortable position where the lender can proceed and make the resolution of that as a condition subsequent. For example, if it's something that is in hand and is in control of the parties, you've obviously got to weigh up whether or not having a condition subsequent is actually in the borrower's control, because there's no point putting a condition in there if the borrower's then going to default on that, and then you're left in a situation where you're not in a better situation. Ultimately, a bridge is there to help, in most instances is there to help bridge them before they then go onto a term product or a longer term product. So a bridge should, in most instances, be able to help remedy those title issues. There's some are irreparable, but it's very rare that I've seen that. Boundary issues come up from time to time, and again, that's something that we can deal with during the term of the loan, for example, because the term lender is going to want to have that remedied. So there's always going to be a willingness for the borrower to deal with that.
No, completely agree. Yeah, I think all of it also comes back to communication there, and then it's getting two heads together and actually discussing it. And quite often you will come up with a solution, and sometimes we have to hold hands and we go, actually, that's a really good idea. Why didn't we think of that? But yeah, really, really appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much for doing the poll. There's a few other bits, but we'll cover them throughout the process. I think the next point, Matt, was one you wanted to come on to, and I think we see it a lot our side, is the big difference between conveyancing and bridging. And I'll really hand over to you. It's probably your area, and obviously chip in where needed.
Yeah, thanks, James. I think from my perspective, I have to be careful with what I say, but I think you define
what a solicitor.
I think there's a clear definition between what the specialisms between residential conveyancing and bridging finance. So if I try and break it down. So residential conveyancing is, a solicitor or a chartered legal executive who acts for people who are buying and selling properties, whether or not that's buy-to-let investment, or that's whether or not they're moving as a fact, like moving their family home. Now that comes with different pressures. You've got the anxiety and the stress and the kind of questions that come up for first-time buyers, for example, people arguing over fittings and contents forms, people wanting to leave. I hear people talking in the office, people are arguing over a Kuka tap and saying, I don't want to proceed anymore because you've got to take that. And those are the nuances and things that you would deal with in conveyancing. And the time processes around conveyancing, as I'm sure we've all moved houses before, can be 5 to 6 weeks to 5 to 6 months, depending on the chain and, estate agents or the chain's falling apart, that kind of thing. I think, and in relation to conveyancing, the solicitors who deal with conveyancing generally are used to those specific timeframes and perhaps not used to the pressures that bridging finance brings. So I think as an education piece, perhaps a solicitor who does residential conveyancing shouldn't do bridging, and I'll come on to obviously explaining bridging, but I think most of us know what that is. But and conversely, you wouldn't use a bridging solicitor. You wouldn't. I used to do residential conveyancing, but you wouldn't now. Or if a client approached me and said, "Can you buy my house for you?" I'd say, "Yes, I could technically do that, but I'm not a specialist in that area anymore, and I wouldn't be best placed to do that." So I think it's an education piece for clients to say, if you've got a family solicitor that's worked for your family for years and years and years, should they be doing residential conveyancing? If that's what they've done in the past, yes. Should they be doing bridging finance? I'm not sure. If it would very much depend on whether or not they've got the experience, because at the end of the day, their duty is to act in the client's best interest. If they have never done bridging finance, ultimately it's their decision as to whether or not they want to act for the client. But I think the client, as the borrower, should be asking their solicitor, have they dealt with transactions in a very short time frame? Because no one likes having to chase someone repeatedly. And it's not fair on that person either, being chased repeatedly if their expectations are not, as a bridging solicitor, we've done transactions within 24 hours before, not 5 to 6 weeks. So it's just understanding, I think, and making sure clients are aware when they're appointing a legal representative, what they are getting themselves into, I suppose, as when it comes to using residential conveyancing solicitor or a solicitor who specialises in development finance, bridging finance. Does that make sense? I hope that does.
Yeah, no, I think it's a different skill set, and you can easily relate. So I was a broker for many, many years. Was I any good at helping a first-time buyer? I could do it, but if you started telling me they had a bit of adverse and they was newly self-employed, it probably wasn't my background. I was buy-to-let, bridging and development. And it's similar. I could probably have fudged my way through it, but actually, were they getting the best advice on their mortgage by coming to me for that? They probably weren't getting that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But likewise, I knew the buy-to-let development and bridging space really, really well, so I can provide advice there. And yeah, it's something we've probably seen a lot our side, and we've tried to come up with solutions. We've got a list of solicitors who our clients and our brokers have worked with, who know us well, and who continue to act for clients who work with Bluecroft, and that's made a real difference. So yeah, no, I completely agree with that, Matt. The next section, I probably shouldn't have worded it like this. We obviously get on that, but I'm going to grill you. It's just something we sat down as a team and we just come up with a few things I think we've seen quite trendy in the industry, and thought we'd probably ask you whilst we've got you, Matt. I won't ask you for updates on my cases, don't worry. But one of the ones we're seeing time and time again at the minute is to do with dual rep, and it's not something we do. And I think it's interesting to get from your opinion really on what are the risks on dual representation, because a lot of lenders, there are more and more doing it, but it's just not something we're probably comfortable with.
So I suppose the initial attraction for dual rep is you've got one solicitor, one set of legal fees that the borrower is going to have to pay. And I, if I was looking to, get finance on something, it would definitely be something that I would consider. But as a lawyer, I think, and going back to what I was talking about initially, when, I say our department specifically acts for lenders, we have a very good relationship with a vast number of bridging lenders in the market. And we care about those relationships, not only, because we want to continue as a business, but more so we need to ensure that our clients are protected. We provide the best service to our clients. And one of our duties as a solicitor is to act in the best interest of our client. Now, if you're doing dual rep, technically you've got two clients. You've got a client who is the borrower, and you've got a client who is the lender. And that is, again, the same as what you have in residential conveyancing. If you're taking a high street mortgage, like, Barclays,
of course,
Santander, other mortgage providers are available. The concern that most firms of solicitors have regarding dual representation is if you are made aware of something which you should inform the other party of. For example, something comes up in your searches and the borrower says to you, do not tell the lender under any circumstances. That is a direct conflict situation, where at that point, you would have to decline to act for both parties. You can't tell either party why you've declined to act. You can't communicate with anyone other than saying, I'm no longer able to act in this transaction. And that's it. So I think from our perspective, we have concerns that we could be left in a situation where we're having to walk away from a transaction at the 11th hour, leaving the lender very embarrassed, leaving the broker very embarrassed, and having no way of explaining to anyone why we've done what we've done. So I think from a business reputational perspective and a client reputational perspective, that's the decision that we've made as a whole. And we get asked by clients all the time. It's something that's a trend in the market, certainly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, we're not dissimilar, man. I've never been sold on the argument it speeds transactions up necessarily, because there is a lot more hoops from your side to jump through to ensure you're providing the correct advice to both sides. So I've never seen that necessarily, especially when we go back to the previous point of making sure you've got the right solicitors acting on both sides. And if you have, we've seen deals complete in under 5 days here. So clearly time isn't an issue if you've got the right people acting and working together. So yeah, no, it's just one of them things that's become trendy all of a sudden, and people are fighting amongst themselves. So yeah, the other one we're seeing a bit in a minute, and this is something we're probably a bit happier with, is docs been signed electronically. And I know you're a fan, Matt, and I'd just like to be good to get your view. What are the risks? Is it something you think more and more lenders should do now, given we all did it during COVID?
I think, obviously, I have to be careful with talking, and I don't want to sit on the fence too much as a lawyer. I'm talking about what the exact risks are, but I think the best way of explaining it is the land registry accept DocuSign now. The land registry are very archaic, very old school. And if they are willing to accept it as a form of registration, then I don't see any reason why people should be shying away from it. The Land Registry have a practice guide which you have to go through and adhere to in order to comply with their requirements. And as a conveyancer, solicitor, when we lodge those documents, we have to provide a separate certificate in our own individual capacity that we've met those requirements.
Yeah.
As a firm, when we issue DocuSign envelopes, we send us a circular email with clear instructions to all the parties saying how to sign these documents, what they're effectively signing. Once they do that, we have to go through GDPR and all those kind of things, because effectively releasing it, DocuSign produces a certificate which releases all the individual's contact details. And one of the additional things that we use is two-factor authentication. So we're then given a mobile number by the borrower or via the borrower solicitor, and all the signatories are all then given two-factor authentication. So from my perspective, it's a no-brainer. We're not having to sit around on a Friday morning thinking, oh, do you know what? I really hope the postman delivers that debenture. Or, DocuSign envelopes do take time to prepare. I would probably say if you've got a suite of documents, it's about half an hour to 45 minutes, putting all the individual boxes in and all the relevant, making sure everything's correctly put, so that you don't have someone signing in the wrong place, because once you send it out, you can't rectify it, so you have to issue it again. So that's the only downside, but that from a solicitor's perspective is just an additional time. We don't charge extra for DocuSign. We don't do that. So from my perspective, it cuts down on timing for postage. It cuts down on timing for having to worry about whether or not the solicitor can go, or that whether or not where the borrower is in the world, because inevitably, how many times do we see that people are on holiday, for example? I get that, and that's the world we live in now. So I think we need to update. It's only good for, I think, lenders to embrace that.
Great. How many times do you see a client on holiday when they've got 2 weeks to complete? But that's another story, Matt. That's another story. But yeah, I completely agree. Why wouldn't we embrace it? We embrace it in every other part of our life, basically. So it makes sense to. So yeah. Well, I think that's enough from us two chatting. All of our contact. Firstly, we'll send all of our details out. But it'd be great to get some questions from you guys. You've got 10 minutes of a solicitor here. We will caveat it, of course. There are certain things, certain subjects we probably have to be careful what we say. But let's ask as many as you want, guys. We'll try and answer as many as we can. If we run over, we apologise. And if there's anything we can't answer here, Matt and I will both get back to you. So I will stop sharing and get to the questions, guys. So
sorry if you can see me focusing on my screen. I'm just looking at the questions that have come in.
Brilliant. Well, the first one I'll ask, actually, Matt, is a really good one, actually, mainly because we use title insurance. So that's handy. So does title insurance cover the client as well as the lender if something goes wrong?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't either. It's mainly protecting the lender because it's an insurance policy the lender is taking out. So I assume it would cover just the lender, but definitely something we can come back to. So another one, and I think I could probably help with this one, Matt, is what is the average cost of title insurance / no search indemnity? I think how long's a piece of string is probably the answer to that one, unfortunately, Matt. In terms of title insurance, it's usually a percentage of the loan. What I would say with that, and Matt, again, probably correct me if I'm wrong, one of the key benefits is there is a lot less time from your perspective to use title insurance, so there can be a reduced legal cost. And secondly, the time you will save from that transaction is probably worth its weight in gold. So whilst there is a cost, we found on most of ours that's more than covered for by the slightly lower legal costs and everything like that. What's your thoughts, Matt?
I think it covers searches, so you've already discounted about £400-500 there if the borrower, title insurance is obviously more expensive than no search indemnity because no search indemnity is only covering no searches, whereas title insurance covers a whole spectrum of, I guess, areas of law that, and I think the easiest way of explaining it is the lender is protected for unknown risks, basically.
Yeah.
So the less you know, the more the lender's covered. And that reduces time for reporting. We have to produce a certificate of title rather than a report on title, and reporting can take between 5 to 10 hours sometimes, depending on how complex the title is. Whereas in a certificate of title, which you use for title insurance, without belittling our job too much, will probably take you about an hour to do. So you're thinking, we do, with the report on title, we go through all of our due diligence, and then we basically spell that back out to the lender as a mechanism of making sure that we're all aware in 6 months' time what advice was given, if something goes wrong or that kind of thing, or you're looking back on from an audit perspective what decisions were made at the time. So I think all in all, title insurance is used as an efficiency mechanism to make transactions more smoother, because we then don't ask questions that we would potentially otherwise ask if we weren't using title insurance, and that is then reflected in the legal fees.
Yeah, absolutely. One from another broker here. So, what's the best way? Probably one for both of us, Matt. But I'll let you go first. What's the best way a broker can help to speed up the legal process?
So, one of the things that I have always been a massive advocate for, and I'm not just saying that because brokers are on this call, is keeping brokers in communication.
Yeah.
I have always been a great advocate of growing relationships with brokers, because I want brokers to feel comfortable in giving my clients business, working with me particularly, so that they go back to my client. I know there are so many lenders in the market, all competing in a very, very competitive space. If there's something that my clients can have added to their, I guess, options when it comes to instructing them or making a decision as to who the broker's going to go with, having someone that they get on with, have a good relationship with, is always something that I've, from a legal perspective, is something I've always been an advocate for. I suppose from helping the legal process, just if you've got a question, ask it, learn. I'm not afraid for a broker to reach out to me and say, look, I've just seen something in your inquiries here. What does that mean? Can I help you? And then I suppose if it comes up again on another deal, once you've learned that, you can then maybe do something in the background. Obviously, we don't copy borrowers in, because that's just not normally the norm. But if borrowers want to be copied in, that can be done. I suppose as a broker, you could forward an email that has come in from the lender's lawyer to the client, maybe start dealing with some of the inquiries in the background, prep the borrower, because you never know, the borrower's solicitor may be out of office for the afternoon, or on annual leave for the day, or whatever. It might then be quite useful to forward the correspondence to them.
I think that's my key one, is actually the prep. We often find a lot of borrowers probably aren't aware of what they need to do sometimes. And actually, from that broker, and I was a broker, is actually managing that process a little bit. We see, the borrower didn't need to know, his solicitor didn't tell him. And obviously, with all of our partners, with all of our solicitors, we ensure the broker is always copied in, and just liaising that little bit, going, did you manage to get that over to your solicitor? Went, he's not asked that yet. I think that's something we're seeing a lot more. So that's probably my one top tip, is just actually reach out to your borrower a little bit more, and sometimes do that. This is an interesting one. I don't actually know the answer to this. I thought I knew the answer to everything, because my team will tell you. But when replying to lenders' inquiries, what's preferable speed-wise? Answering everything in one go, or sending it over as and when they become available? We've got one of these at the minute, Matt, so I want to know the answer.
I have absolutely no preference over that. I suppose there will get to a point where, if it was, let's say, for example, if they just replied to one inquiry, that's just that would be
a pointless.
Pointless exercise, because we would then spend 5 minutes and say, by the way, you've now satisfied point 1 of 20. Can we have the remaining 20? I have no preference. From my perspective, if certain things are awaited and the borrower's solicitor communicates to me and says, I've got environmental search, because that is needed when you do title insurance. You still do need a desktop environmental search. So if they sent me over title insurance, desktop environmental search, a copy of the title the title plan and a couple of other things, and said, oh, but by the way, I'm just collating the tenancy information from a client, that's going to follow. I'm obviously going to not review that. I'm going to go on, if that's the only thing that's to follow, or it's clearly identified what's to follow, then I think, from my perspective, that this is only a personal opinion. I have no issue with doing piecemeal reviewing, because I'm just one of those people that once something's on my desk, I want it off my desk as quickly as I possibly can, back on someone else's desk. So I'd rather review it, send it back and say, this is what's outstanding. I know that there are things to follow, but I'm just sending you this back, telling you that I've reviewed this and this is what's dealt with.
I think from a lender's side, it's actually quite good to sometimes get them in piecemeal, because there could be something come up that then we need to run simultaneously, going, there's no planning permission here. Actually, we need to start looking at how we indemnify ourselves, whilst you might not have the ASTs or the asbestos report. If we know there's no planning, we can at least start prepping and planning our side. So I think sometimes piecemeal is, from a lender's perspective, is quite a nice thing, as long as he's not taking the mickey and you just send the ID and nothing else. I do agree. One here, actually one for myself. So how do lenders select which solicitors are on their panel? So not to blow too much smoke up Matt's arse, no. We're very, very careful who we work with. We always need a panel, and Matt obviously is well aware we work with other solicitors, but I think the key from our side is, having people we can communicate with. Like today I was WhatsApping Matt. I think that's something where you can have that relationship and actually communicate to solve problems, not present issues. It's actually going, well, I've actually got this, but how do we solve an issue, rather than just going, well, this is a problem, figure out yourself. Having partners like Matt, like the team, all of Matt's team as well, it's not just Matt. We can pick up the phone to them at any time. I think communication is one of the big things from ourselves. And again, having that variety of, we've got a 50k loan here, sometimes that might be a little bit more cost conscious. Personally, I think pay as much as you can for a solicitor, because you will see that done quicker and save yourself thousands of pounds. But yeah, I think it's kind of having that variety. Just trying to see if we've got any more, guys. One there, and maybe one for Matt, but title insurance, what does it cover and not cover?
That is a very broad question.
I've dropped you in here. You should have deleted that one.
That would be something that I would probably have to deal with separately. If it was a specific question and was, that could be followed up with, I think is probably the best thing to do.
From our perspective, just to give you an idea, guys, we use title insurance on any loan, any residential loan below £1 million, and any commercial, semi-commercial below £750,000. And that will as we've been saying, dramatically save time on the legal process. We've just expanded that recently, so we've seen a real uptake on that. I think that's it, guys. Really, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate that. Most importantly, thank you, Matt, for your time. I know how busy you guys are, so really appreciate that, mate, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We'll get all this sent out, guys, so you can watch it later, because I'm sure you want to watch this again. But yeah, it's going to be there. We're going to be putting it on all our social channels, so you can start seeing bits and pieces. And Matt and I will reach out. You've got our contact details will be coming out, so please reach out to both of us with any questions, queries, or any inquiries or anything you got in the desk, guys. So no, thanks ever so much, guys. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, James.